Approve the agenda. Get a motion to do so.
So moved.
Motion by Jim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Val, motion by Jim and a second by Val to approve the agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, I'll attempt to read the minutes of the council workshops. Hampton City Council held a budget workshop at 7:15 p.m. in City Council chambers on January 24th, 2013. Members present were Lukensmeyer, Davies, Crowley, Eckhart, Harms, and Hoggeback. Also present were myself, City Manager Ron Dunn, Public Works Director Doug Tarr, and Police Chief Bob Schaefer. Ron reviewed the budget proposal under consideration and requested direction from the council on outside agency funding as well as any other changes the council would like to make in the proposal. The proposal included a balanced general fund budget and an 80-cent reduction in the overall levy due to a reduction in the employee benefits levy in order to use up some accrued fund balance in the employee benefits fund. Proposal included no increases in outside agency funding. There were a number of outside agency committee members present who addressed the council. After much discussion, the consensus of the council was to direct Ron to set the fiscal year 2014 outside agency funding as follows. Entities funded through general fund: Hampton Public Library $80,000, Franklin County Alcoholism Service Center $13,000, Historical Commission $250, Municipal Band $6,900, Senior Center $4,000. TIF funded entities, Franklin County Development $45,000, Main Street Hampton $12,000, Design Committee Facade Grant $10,000. Council declined a request for funding from the Hampton Baseball Commission and directed Ron to proceed with the remaining budget items as proposed, with the exception of replacing the drinking water dispenser in the council chambers. Also, Ron will correct a line item that was missed in the first draft. Council consensus was to meet February 14, 2013 to approve the proposed budget and set March 11, 2013 as the date for public hearing on the budget adoption. The council concluded its workshop at 8:11 p.m. February 11, 2013, we held another workshop. Members present were Lukensmeyer, Hoggeback, Davies, Crowley, and Eckhart. Absent was Harms. Also present was myself, City Manager Ron Dunn, Public Works Director Doug Tarr, and Police Chief Bob Schaefer. I offered time for public comment. There was none received. Hampton Tree Board member Randy Sanders addressed the council with an update of activities, which included a plan for removal and replacement of some diseased and dying trees located in Harriman Park. Tom Madden and Rustin Lingbeek, the Yagi Colby Associates, presented information regarding the upcoming wastewater treatment plant project. They asked the council to consider which structures currently utilized at the old wastewater treatment plant to retain and which ones to be demolished as part of the project. Once bids come in, the council will decide based on cost benefit. He also recommended including some alternatives in the bid letting of the new facility for driveway paving and cold storage building. Doug Tarr and Chief Schaefer discussed a request for the council to consider adding no parking zones on 3rd and 4th Street Northwest in the 1100 block of 12th Avenue. After consideration since the last meeting, it was staff's recommendation to utilize enforcement of current ordinances relating to the 40-foot no parking zone near each rural mailbox. The council agreed with this approach. Ron updated the council on the cell tower ground lease request and reviewed the FAA opinion letter recently released, stating the proposed site would not be an obstruction or hazard in the FAA's opinion. Dunn stated that the city's attorney was working on a counteroffer to the proposed lease. Chief Schaefer explained there was a minor issue with street parking in the downtown with the last snowfall event. However, he believed it did not warrant any ordinance changes at this time. I then informed the council that I and Ron had recently met with Supervisor Mike Nolte for continued discussions relating to a potential 2080 agreement for dispatching and holding facilities at the Law Enforcement Center, and indicated that progress was being made in the discussions and was hopeful that final details could be worked out prior to council approving the 2014 budget. There being no unfinished business and no other public comment, the meeting concluded at 6:45 p.m. And with that, I'll go ahead and open up for public comment if there is any.
Kim Manning, from the director from the Hampton Public Library.
Could you come to the podium? Sorry.
Sure, I'm sorry. And recently I sent everybody on the council an email or a snail mail letter, if I didn't have your email address, on the fact that I was getting no increase at the on the city's portion of the library's budget for the next fiscal year. And I had a response from Jim Davies that he would like to see somebody from the foundation and maybe somebody from the Friends or from the library board itself. And so I brought with me, I have the president, the vice president, and the secretary, all of the library board, and then Ron Schermer, who is the treasurer for the foundation. So if you have any questions from them, I'm assuming you do, they're here to answer those tonight.
I do have a question. as far as for the foundation, how would you describe your relationship, the foundation with the library, as far as helping out with like general operating funds and so forth?
Thanks, Jim. I guess that's an issue. That's an issue that I'd like to visit with you about it. The foundation was established, I can't give an exact date, but it was a little over 15 years ago. There were some funds from past donations held in a bank account, and Ray Drew had asked a few of us to serve on a board and establish a foundation to use in acquiring gifts for the library and those sort of things. And the general purpose of the foundation was to benefit the library. Benefit the library in one of the things that was there when we started. Someday that library is going to have to grow. It's just busting out at the seams. Culling of books has to occur. There's not room for that. For continual buying books and not taking any away. And then of course technology comes along, and we've got computer purchases and software purchases and those sort of things, along with normal increase, steady increase in the cost of books and so forth. But our focus was to acquire gifts and receive gifts and try and manage those to benefit the library in special cases or special instances. In some of the examples that we've done recently, we purchased a next door house, a lot that was next door, and had to take it down, or I think the city helped us with taking it down, but we purchased it. And then we were fortunate enough that someone donated the next lot next door to us, and so we've got the space for someday for an addition. So that's something that's in everybody's minds. It's not here for the next 2 years or 5 years or something, but when that day comes, it'll always be expensive. You know, who knows? $1 million, I don't know if that'll do it, or some of those things. So what we feel like we've been charged to do, and that's what all foundations do, is try and take in gifts, invest it, spend it wisely, try and keep it growing, because the longer we wait, the more it's going to cost. But to help out the library where needs are that can't be met from anywhere else. And so somewhere in the past, and I can't tell you exactly there, we began to help out the library on an annual basis. And we do help them, and our intention was to help, when it started, to help keep this book budget alive, because the squeezing of the budget, continuing rising costs, and inability to get enough money, it always came out of the book budget, and that's what the library's there for. And so we have over the last probably 12 years, 14 years, we've made annual contributions to the budgets. We hate to call it operating because that isn't our general purpose. But at this time, and you've seen the library budget. The last few years we've done $19,500. We are apparently going to receive a gift from the state in the near future, and we will certainly take that in mind when we decide how much we're going to give for next year. But the concern that I'm seeing, and I'm not in full understanding of what the situation, but I do know that I know the library would hope to increase the wages a couple of % for the employees, and that's going to be very difficult to do without an increase in the allocation to the city. I think there were some problems with the book budget last year, and that's where some of the increase came for this wage for the employees last year. And I guess my thought is that I guess I'm hoping that this council would reconsider their allocation to the library enough for at least to do a small 2% increase in wages, simply because I guess we still consider our employees city employees. You know, they're related, and if there's a freeze on for the city, we can't. We're in agreement. We'll stay frozen. But we do need to keep our employees current on the wage structure. And that just, to look to the foundation to start help take care of increases in wages is a really slippery slope to go down. Because once we've done it, you know, and said, all right, we'll raise it because we need it for the wages, I don't know where that stops in the future. You know, there will just always be the request, well, take care of it with foundation money. And that isn't our purpose. We are trying to grow this thing and trying to be there when a large capital expenditure comes due. That being said, let's say we get down there 8 or 10 years and we do put an addition on the library, we've got $1 million expense, and we can contribute $600,000 or $700,000 to it. We no longer have the ability to continue to fund that other donation every year. We won't have the interest generating ability or the funds to then give them $20,000 or $25,000 or $30,000 a year that it will take if we keep funding wage increases. And so it becomes kind of a one or the other. You know, we're going to get down there, we're going to build a new building, we can't afford to pay the folks. Then we'd be at the city, you know, asking for an increase of $25,000 in 1 year. And so that's why I don't want to feel, I don't want you to feel like I don't want to spend our money, but we do need to be protective and acknowledge the fact that we need to continue to grow our investment for when the day comes. And I think in comparison to the Franklin General Hospital Foundation, there's no money there ever comes out to pay for pay raises, you know, for salary or costs of employees. Their focus is I'd like to compare it to us, is to take care of those special needs. We've spent in excess of $40,000 in the last few years on those special needs. The big one was the house, of course, but we've bought software, and those things were over and above our annual donation to them of the $19,000. We bought TV. We've helped out when Kim is successful in acquiring grants from outside organizations, Community Foundation for one. There's always some matching funds involved there. You know, we'll do 70% or we'll do 60%, and you have to come up with 30% yourself. And so we've worked with friends and been able to keep things moving along pretty good. But that's my thought is I really need to try and avoid hiking our contribution for the purpose of salary increases. It's a precedent that I just think would be damaging down the road. If you have any specific questions?
Well, I guess too, I was curious, how does the foundation arrive at that 19.5 then? You know, has that increased over the years, or has that pretty much stayed the same?
Well, we started, like I said, we started 15 years ago, and there was nothing coming into the library other than the interest of the savings account. And as we were able to grow it, we raised it. And it's been probably 2 years since we've had an increase. We've also had investments gone through a recessionary period. We're getting another gift now, so I'm certain we'll look at having a little higher interest income. Although that's not a great environment right now either. We can't go out very far. We don't go out very far on a risk basis. We don't chase the higher rates with the higher risk investment. So there will be some additional interest income, and we'll certainly look at using some of that to increase it. And that, I can't give you the exact path it's been, but it's always been up. You know, it started, I think, in the area of 4,000, 3,000 or 4,000, and as our investments grew, we try never to spend more than our actual interest income. Okay, 60% of our investments are in bonds in interest-bearing accounts, and then 40% we have put in mutual funds. That 40% doesn't get us any checks. That's all reinvested for growth. So when we say we can give out this much this year, we don't exceed our interest income off the 60%.
I have a question for Kim. if we, like I said, if, just given that 80,000 instead of 85, then where do you see then you're gonna have to impact your proposed 2013-14 budget?
If I don't get the increase
Right.
of 5,000? Well, if I don't get the increase of 5,000, certainly the library staff would not get a raise. And the book budget, I asked for the book budget to go back up to its previous amount before we took the raise out of it last year when we didn't get an increase. So I asked for 5 for those 2 reasons, and then when I was explained to by Ron that I wouldn't be getting any increase, I felt that we can make the book budget work if we absolutely have to. But I cannot maintain a good staff if I don't pay them a decent wage, if the city doesn't pay them a decent wage. And the cost of retraining a new librarian is not cheap. And there's a lot of CEUs involved and a lot of classes. And they're not classes that aren't offered in a webinar, so it's a lot of mileage. And so I think really the smart thing to do, really, like my email said, if the city just keeps the librarians along with the rest of the city employees, I wouldn't come to you very often for an increase. I don't see that. I would. Once in a while, yes, we do have software issues, like when we got our own website. We had to get new software. That might have been a time I would have came for an increase. But I feel like a lot of this annual back and forth really could stop, because libraries are very good managers of the public trust, and we take it very serious that we are not wasting taxpayer dollars. And so it's really only for the raise that I usually come to the city. I explained, I think, in my previous presentation that this year I went to the county. We do have some computer issues, and I have 2 laptops that are 5 years old that are starting to not work. And so I took that to the county, since I do have the 2 funding sources. I kind of, weigh that out. And at that time I was told that the county was being very receptive to tech grants, one-time tech grants. So that's what I did. And I haven't heard yet if I'm going to be receiving that grant, but I'm hopeful.
And then you did request an increase, you said, in the county, so you said the increase that I see between this year and next year was for that tech grant?
Yes.
Is that's
Yes.
where you were looking for
And
that
it
from
would
the
be,
county?
right, and it would be a one-time, the year after that. Of course, we present to them every year as well. And we do have one of the best counties on record as far as how they treat their libraries. They're phenomenal to us, so we can't fault them at all.
Okay. I don't want to monopolize, so anyone else?
Joe, good job.
Go ahead, Dick.
Of the 5,000 increase that you requested, what percentage of that reflects the 2%?
2,500.
2,500,
or half.
It's half and half.
Right, it's almost half and half. And so, yes, like I said, I can live without the 2,500, the book budget. Whether or not the patrons can live without it, I don't know. They're the ones that are affected the most by the book budget. One thing I wanted to stress, and if you look at librarians and their role in the library, without librarians, the library is just a warehouse full of books. It really takes the librarian to take the customer to what they need, whether it's help with the workforce development site and finding a job, filling out a job application. They're almost all online anymore, so we have to be trained to help with that. Certainly the e-book revolution that we have going on, we have a lot of people coming in with their iPads and their tablets wanting us to teach them. That's a role we fulfill. But of course, the books is still one of the major things a library is known for, are the books. And so without the librarians, the books really don't do any good. So, I'm always caught in the balance when I'm looking at the budget is, I really need to keep qualified librarians on staff. It's the only way that a library can be successful at all. So, and I think it's probably true of most businesses. It's the people behind the business that make the difference. So.
Another question, I guess, I would have. I guess in your mind, when you look at what the city gives you, are you looking at that like primarily going towards the wages, that like 85,000 that you're requesting?
Half of that. Half of the 5,000 would go to wages.
Well, I mean your total amount, when you're figuring out it all goes into a pot.
Right.
But do you sort of look at the city's portion of their contribution tends to go, pretty much all apply that towards wages?
Well, the majority of the people that use the library are city people. And so, yes, because we're within walking distance of all those people, people in the county have several libraries they can actually choose from if they so desire. Certainly, you're gonna come to the biggest one, you're gonna get the most selection, but they really have a choice, so yes. But when we really make a budget presentation to the county, they don't really ask us what we're going to use the money for, so.
Well, the reason I asked is when you asked for the counties, you said the increase was going towards equipment, so I guess I'm just sort of thinking, you know, do you in your mind sort of apply certain?
This year I certainly did,
Yeah.
just because of the tech grant being a new thing that they had just started with the county government, so.
Just trying to get that straightened out.
Sure, sure, thank you.
Okay.
Anything else, anything of my board members?
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other public comment at this time? Okay, I'll move forward then. We have nothing on the agenda for old business, we'll move into the new business. Consideration of approval of Jeremy Dodge for certification as a police reserve officer authorized to carry a firearm on duty upon satisfactory completion of firearms training. Chief Schaefer.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Jeremy Dodge. He is a officer for the city of Sheffield, but would like to have him approved for being a reserve officer here. I think he makes a great asset to the department, help us out when we need somebody extra, and like to have that approval if I could. He is already certified. He's a certified officer. Before he went, while he was at Sheffield, and he is also certified to carry a firearm. Has the qualifications. We've already got those actually qualified down at Hawkeye, if I'm correct.
Jeremy, do you live in Sheffield now?
Yes.
I work in Sheffield, so I just hope Sheffield remains safe without you. So.
Are there any questions, council?
So you're not giving up your position in Sheffield, this is just a part-time job?
Yeah,
when you
On my
need you, right?
days off up there, I work down here, so.
Greg, did you?
Chief, so he's ready to get in the car and just go right to work, pretty much?
Well, kind of. He has been riding with some of the officers, getting the feel for the town or whatever, because, you know, as far as knowing where the different areas are and whatever, I think we still need to go and maybe work on those items.
I mean, as far as no additional training, no additional certification, you're ready to?
Correct, yes. I mean, it'd just be like one of us, you know, going to some other town and working part-time. I mean, you know, we're all certified officers, and if you're certified in the state, you're actually certified anywhere in the state, so.
Very good.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve Jeremy Dodge as a reserve officer for the city of Hampton.
Okay.
I'd second that.
Got a motion by Craig and a second by Dick to approve Jeremy Dodge for certification as a police reserve officer, authorized to carry a firearm on duty upon satisfactory completion of firearms training, which was already completed, so. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Nice to meet you.
Next on the agenda is approval of proposed budget fiscal year 2014 and set public hearing for Monday, March 11th, 2013, at 6 p.m. in City Council chambers for final adoption of the budget at that special session. Look for comment this time from City Manager Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor. On your yellow pages in your packets, you'll find the budget. This will be the 2014 final budget, which results in a total levy of $12.80 per thousand of taxable valuation. This is the budget that we had discussed at the last budget workshop, and all the numbers are entered in on this. These are the state forms. The prior documents we were looking at were our in-house software forms. The numbers have been transferred to the state forms, and this is what would get published in the newspaper prior to our public hearing, which would be March 11th. Any questions?
Got a couple around. Got a further request from the library here, and there's a couple of outstanding things we can talk about with the dispatch center. With those things left hanging, would we need budget amendments if this is approved here tonight, moving forward, or how would those expenses be handled?
Well, this, it all depends on timing. I mean, this goes to the newspaper, if approved, as is. If no changes are made to this, but yet in the later on after we publish and have approved this budget, say after the fiscal year starts, we decide to pay more on something, and it affects our budget enough to where we would be going over budget, then we would make it part of the amendment, yes. So just depends on timing, I guess, there. You know, if there's anything that needs to be changed, I need to know about it sooner. If you decide later, yeah, it has to be part of an amendment. So.
Any other questions?
In response to the library's request, I don't think that I would support a 2%. I might consider a 1% increase. We'd be taking the general fund in order to do that. Is that the correct line?
It's general fund. Yes, be a general fund.
I guess I would consider that.
Well, one thing that my impression was that from the email that I received from Kim was that she expects to be able to give the library employees the same raise that we arrive at for all other city employees. With those negotiations still pending, it's hard to be able to set that. So if she's acceptable to whatever that percentage is, you know, we may be waiting for that. I mean, I certainly think that's a valid position to say to follow the city employees, but at this time we just don't know.
I think you make a good point there.
Anything else?
So your suggestion is we'll see how the negotiations go and deal with any change after that.
Right.
Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Then do we reconsider a police car?
That's,
I mean, the six of us sat here those evenings and discussed this.
Right.
And I'm willing to do whatever the majority wants to do, I guess, but
right.
I think that we need to really consider those actions, doing something now and later. I mean, when we knew the ramifications of all of this, the police department's in very, I think, not maybe dire need, but they're into the position where they need a vehicle. And I think that that's something to consider them too.
And very valid point as well. So, well taken. So, I guess, you know, what I'm hearing from Ron is, you know, the budget can still be changed, but we need to hedge against that. So, if there are, I guess if there are changes, maybe look at those before the public hearing.
Let's see. Today's the 14th. This goes to the newspaper on the 20th. So, I guess I would need to know tonight, probably, otherwise we're looking at setting a special meeting if you want further discussion. But
I would prefer not to do anything until we have negotiations on the road. We'll have a better idea then. If we have to do an amendment, we may not.
Okay.
We may not do anything.
I'm kind of with Craig on this one. We sat around and we discussed this. And I mean, it's hard not to give others money, but if we open the door with one for one, I'm afraid then it just doesn't look good for the ones that we did to them.
I would agree with all that.
Okay. So if there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion then.
Move to approve the budget. Opposed.
Okay. Got a motion by Craig to approve the fiscal year 2014 budget as proposed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Diane. Any further discussion? Again, the motion is to approve the budget for the fiscal year 2014 as proposed. There's no further discussion.
And set a date for.
And also
public hearing
set the
March
date,
11th,
yep. Public hearing will be March 11, 2013 at 6 p.m. will be the public hearing. Is there any further discussion? Okay, we'll go forward with the vote then. Lukensmeyer?
Aye.
Davies?
Aye.
Raleigh?
Aye.
Eckhart?
Aye.
Arms is absent, and Hageback.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is consideration of approval of temporary easement compensation of $1 each to adjacent property owners Patricia E. Gamble and Darren Chipp for bridge replacement in the 200 block of 8th Street Northwest. Just refer to Public Works Director Tyler at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, we have a bridge replacement project that we've been trying to get done and get going here for quite a while now, over on 8th Street Northwest. Now that the final plans have gone out, actually they have gone out, we have already the estimates back for cost and everything. The way the project's laid out, we're gonna need some access to get some heavy equipment in and around the project site. It's not much, it's just a few feet on a couple of different private property parcels. I've had discussions with both those property owners, and they've come in, they've signed these easements and agreed to the terms and conditions. And just one more step to get completed so we can get rolling. Materials have been ordered for the project, but in talking with the contractor that had the low bid, he's going to wait till the frost is completely out of the ground, because there is some fine tuning and shaping that's going to need to take place, and it's best if the frost is out to do that. So, but anyway, we move forward, so that's what's before you.
Two questions. Is there a deadline for completion?
There is, and I believe it is the I think it's the 29th of June, Dick.
Okay.
And then that's for the bridge replacement portion, which basically means that project, that portion would be just the installation of the culvert pipe and bringing it up to within 6 inches of grade. Once that's been completed, I'm going to get some pricing to do curb and gutter from local contractors, and then city staff possibly to do the flat work in between, and then, you know, take a look at what those prices and costs are going to be. And then we're going to try to get that completed during the month of June, so I get everything paid out by July 1st. So,
Is there curb and gutter to the north of the bridge?
yeah, both sides there's curb and gutter now,
Okay.
but we're going to be cutting that out, and so we want curb and gutter back in there once
Okay.
we get completed.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
No other questions? Entertain a motion?
I move to approve these easement compensations.
Okay.
Second.
A motion by Dick and a second by Craig to approve the temporary easement compensation, $1 each to adjacent property owners Patricia E. Gamble and Darren Chipp for bridge replacement, 200 block of 8th Street Northwest. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of the claims as submitted by staff. The total tonight is $163,427.83, and that does include 2 payroll cycles and an extra week of invoices since the last session. Take a motion to approve the claims.
A motion to approve.
second?
Second.
I have a motion by Diane and a second by Val to approve the claims as submitted by staff in the amount of $163,427.83. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is introduction and consideration of approval of an ordinance number 338, an ordinance amending chapter 69 of the Hampton Municipal Code of 2009 by adding additional section thereto, providing an area for limited parking. For reading, City Manager Dunn.
Doug, did you want to say a few words before I read it?
Thank you. Basically, this is the information that was provided us at a previous workshop some time ago, or I can't remember, it was workshop or it was the old committee level.
I think it might have been the last public access.
Might have been, and but it was before budget time, and we're just now, it was put on hold because we were in anticipation that something might occur. What we talked about earlier up on 3rd and 4th Street Northwest up by the 12th Avenue. But it didn't, so now this is what we ended up with for the next change. And I believe this would address what come out of that committee.
Ordinance number 338, an ordinance amending chapter 69 of the Hampton Municipal Code of 2009 by adding additional section thereto, providing area for limited parking. Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Hampton, Iowa, Section 1, Chapter 69 of the Hampton Municipal Code of 2009 is hereby amended by adding thereto new subsections to Section 69.08, adding number 16, number 17, and number 18 as follows. 16. 10th Avenue Northeast, south side of Avenue from 4th Street Northeast to 6th Street Northeast during school days between the hours of 7:30 and 4 p.m. 17. 11th Avenue Northeast, south side of Avenue from 4th Street Northeast to 6th Street Northeast during school days between the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 4 o'clock p.m. 18. 10th Avenue Northeast, north side of Avenue, 50 feet east of the 10th Avenue Northeast and 4th Street Northeast intersection. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Is there any questions? Call for a motion.
So moved. To approve.
Motion by Jim, do I have a second?
Second.
Take Diane. Motion by Jim and a second by Diane to approve the first reading of ordinance number 338. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move forward with the vote. Davies?
Aye.
Hogback?
Aye.
Arms is absent. Raleigh?
Aye.
Eckhart?
Aye.
Lukensmeyer?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. It does include approving the previous minutes as drafted from the Thursday, January 24th, 2013 regular session meeting. Scheduling the next regular session for Thursday, February 28th, 2013 at 6 p.m. at City Council Chambers. Approving of new application for retail cigarette and tobacco sale permit to Dollar General store number 2383 at 510 Central Avenue West in Hampton. Approval of renewal of alcohol licensing renewal for Dollar General number 2383, 510 Central Avenue West in Hampton. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Questions? Take a motion.
Move to approve consent agenda as stands.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Vic and a second by Val to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is staff reports. Fire Chief Kent Wilkinson is not with us tonight. Police Chief Bob Schaefer.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, City Manager. I want to thank you for approving Mr. Dodge, our reserve officer. I think he'd be a good asset for our department. It gets tougher whenever we have a reserve officer resign or quit for whatever reason to go and find somebody because of the schooling and also the time frame that we usually need somebody to work. It just doesn't work out for a lot of people, so I do appreciate that. We are continuing the nuisance enforcement efforts, kind of started taking some sweeps of the town again and looking at the worst of it right now anyway, and kind of following through on those. And then, you know, when spring comes and and it gets a little bit harder or whatever, or firmer out there, not frozen, but firmer, you know, we'll try to hit it a little bit, you know, a little bit better too. One of the things that I did want to report is that I did get a call from the owner of the dog from the last time that we had the hearing, and had me come and look at the kennel that they had. My feeling is that the wire in the kennel is too light with the size of dog it is, and the fact that its jaws are as strong as they are. I have a concern about it either, you know, chewing on the wire or possibly getting under the wire. What they basically did is they got a chain link like panel. The posts on it are probably about that big around where they come together, and then where the actually where the fence is attached to the post, it's a flat metal that is bent over to hold that fence. I guess I've got some concerns with that, the strength of that. The other thing is they do have it 2 eye hooks into the house, and then there is wire basically between the eye hooks and around the post to attach it to the house. And I realize it's wintertime, but it's sitting on top of the ground, okay, and we have dirt on the ground. And I took a hold of the corner of it, and I could move the whole cage because of the fact that it's not anchored into the ground at all. One of my other concerns is knowing that we've had issues in the past with dogs running at large, and they say, well, I had it in the kennel. Well, it dug underneath the kennel and got out. I guess my feeling would be is they need to make sure that there's either something on the outside of there or in that area so that the dog could not dig underneath the kennel, whether it be concrete pavers, whether it's concrete, I mean fully concrete where they have the kennel or what. But those are just my observations and my concerns about it. You know, I guess I'd encourage any of you, if you wanted to take a look at it. I also took pictures. I sent those to Ron. I don't know if you ran any off or anything like that, but we don't have, Ron's got them anyway, so that if you wanted to take a look at some pictures and see what I'm talking about. But those are some of my concerns. I did express those concerns to them when I was there, but I did not tell them, no, this isn't going to work, whatever. I did discuss the fact that I thought the wire was light. Didn't realize that the whole thing would move when I grabbed a hold of it, so I hadn't discussed that with them, but had also discussed the issue of possibly digging underneath and getting out with them also, yeah, Tyrell told me that he had intended on, like putting bags of concrete around the outside, and I'm not sure if he meant, running concrete or, what he specifically had in mind when he told me that. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you know if he's made any efforts toward compensation to the owner of the rabbits?
That was one of the things that they did tell me that they had done. I have not checked with the owner yet. Actually forgot about that until you mentioned that. But I had asked, or they had offered that information that they had taken care of that. So I do need to verify that. And which will all be done before we have the meeting on the 28th.
Anything else for the chief?
I went and met the dog, and, as a dog lover, the dog is very shy, very timid, and I can see why the officers reacted the way it did. I mean, most dogs come right to me, and this dog didn't. So I didn't base my judgment on that. Went and talked to Clifford and the gals that work in the office, and they said once you warm up to the dog, they've never had any problems or any issues with the dog. I'm with you. Remember, I had that lab, Gabby, and we have a concrete kennel with real nice fencing, and when she wanted out, she would try to pull that apart. I agree. I think it needs to be stronger, because that dog's wants to run, and that's,
Right.
you know, that's normal, but it's gonna get out. Just my opinion.
If they were going to make a stronger kennel, they could take the materials that they have now and lay them down on the inside of the kennel to prevent the dog from digging, and then build an appropriate fence. That's one option they certainly could take.
Have they done any training with the dog?
Not that I'm aware of, because the dog was taken outside city limits, and to my knowledge, because we actually, you know, we notify the town where they go to.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was Leroy, Minnesota.
Okay.
If I remember, it was either Leroy or Chester, Iowa, and I can't remember for sure. They're right close to each other, so. But I believe it was Leroy, Minnesota, and I did get a call from one of the deputies that handles that area, after we had notified them about that, because, and I'm not sure where that stands at, but I think that they have an ordinance about vicious animals being inside their city limits, and I think that there was a possibility that the person that had the dog might get a letter saying that it couldn't be there.
Okay.
But I didn't ask that information when I was at the house looking at the kennel, and nobody brought anything up about that, so.
In looking ahead, you're scheduled to table the public here, or you tabled the decision on whether to determine whether the dog's vicious or not. And that'll happen in 2 weeks, February 28th meeting. So, given the information that Bob has presented, if we come back in 2 weeks and the kennel's the same, are you gonna then need more time to determine whether the dog's vicious or not because of the kennel situation? Or do you think that in the interest of not doing this again and having more delays, do you want him to relay information to the owners now and say, you got 2 weeks to do X, Y, and Z, or what? I don't know, I'm trying to avoid us tabling this again. I mean, maybe that's okay, maybe you're okay with that, but I just see that is probably gonna happen if we come back in here.
After what I observed out at the vet center, just my opinion is that they need to be advised the kennel needs to be stronger. I'm not saying it's a vicious dog, but she's definitely got some energy, and she's a timid dog. I just think that the kennel needs to be stronger. And just for everybody's peace of mind.
I guess I would just say that I think the chief has already done his job, and if he's let them know his concerns with the kennel, then it's their responsibility to, I think we've already gone above and beyond, and if he's relayed his concerns, then, they know they've got a couple extra weeks, and it'll be the council, full council decision on whether or not to table it again. I would probably advise against it, but that's you guys' decision. We've given them 30 days to make amends and make the situation right, and we'll see what happens in a couple weeks, but.
I will give them the benefit of the doubt to make sure that there is no misunderstanding, and I will go back. I mean, as long as I've talked to you guys, I will go back and discuss the issues with them that I just discussed with you, and basically kind of tell them that I think that, if you want to make sure that things move forward, that these are the things that I would do. The only issue that I can see becoming a problem would be as if they wanted to go and try to run concrete back there now. Only because of the temperatures and the ground the way that it is and whatever. But that bothers me, the fact that it could dig under. So I don't know if that would be a situation where, even though they've got the kennel, that they keep it on a leash in that kennel until such time that they can get concrete or make sure that it isn't. I guess I don't know where we go with that, only because of the temperatures that we have, I guess. So, I guess, what are your thoughts on that aspect of it?
Well, those are things that were to be decided between the owner of the rabbits and the owner of the dog. And as, you know, my understanding, as a favor to the owner of the dog, you were going to check and advise council on your opinion. I think at that time, you know, we can review your opinion and see what you think again.
Okay.
But again, I think it's the dog owner's responsibility, I think, to make sure that, you know, that they've got it. And it'll be council decision as to whether or not the dog can stay. I don't want to see the council necessarily making the decision for them on whether or not they have to pour concrete. So,
Right. And that's, yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Do we have the authority to, I mean, I don't like that report either, your report, but do we have the authority to, I don't want to talk about this every 2 weeks. Definitely don't want to. Do we have the authority to just say the dog can't come back until the satisfactory pen is built and everything is taken care of? And just push it to the back? Do we have to talk about it every 2 weeks?
I would say we're not going to talk. I would say we're going to give them their full month. So we will talk about it again in 2 weeks, because, you know, the only reason we're here about it now is because it was part of Chief Shaver's report. So we'll hear about it then. But after that, I mean, that's why I say I would advise against tabling it, but ultimately that's your decision to do so. But no, it's the dog owner's responsibility to get that, and I think that's been made clear. So
I will make sure I share my thoughts with them, and then we can just take it from there.
right.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
Doug Jar.
Thank you, Mayor. Briefly, there's a Board of Adjustment meeting scheduled for February 21st at 5:30 p.m. here at City Council Chambers. There are 2 conditional use permit requests that will be on that agenda. You know, weather's kind of had its ups and downs here a little bit, but all in all, it's not been a bad winter so far. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Thanks.
You've got a couple of items listed here as far as, because we really talked seriously about how we're going to handle the situation as far as trees and burning at the Capitol site. What's our status right now? Obviously, you guys are in the street department, parks and cemetery going. What's happening with the material now?
We're not burning right now, and we were hauling to. There's been about 3 or 4 people in the community interested, so we've been dropping some wood off at some of those some of those citizens. And then I did have an agreement with a gentleman that lived just outside the city limits, and we had hauled some materials out there. He's advised me since that he's not as interested because he was wanting all or none type thing. The staff had made some decisions to actually take some of the wood from in town. It was a shorter run for him to go a few blocks away instead all the way out of town, and it just got to the point where now we're at the point where I think a lot of stuff's still going out to our site, but we're not burning. So
One of the things that I felt our focus was to get with the county if we could and find a site for it to go. This person who you talked to, was he willing to take everything that we had? I mean, so we had no responsibility for it?
He was, but at this time, he's not. His space really wasn't conducive to taking everything that we had. Once all of a sudden things started going, his lot was filling up, or the area that he was gonna let us at was pretty full already, because we'd taken quite a few loads out there. Kevin Prolly's the gentleman that I was working with. But I had discussion yesterday with County Conservation Director Jason Gooder, just kind of bugging in the ear a little bit about, hey, you guys got a place, you know, where we can potentially be looking at for burning. And you know, he's talked, I think, with the county engineer a little bit, and we've had discussions, but there's just nothing yet's been pinpointed as, you know, something that the entities can get together and purchase. or if they have anything that the county owns that's accessible, or anything that county conservation has that's accessible. Some of the thoughts were maybe an area out by Mains Grove. Yeah, it just, nothing's just transpired yet into a good decision, or you know, a good area that's kind of a slam dunk per se, but that wouldn't cost us all an arm and a leg. We can have some more discussions as we move forward, but as of right now, we're not burning at our own site. We're just kind of collecting right now, but I do think the guys are getting rid of some of the larger stuff here and there to some local citizens that want firewood. That's kind of the best. And the trimming, most of that's getting chipped up. So, you know, we have a lot of wood chips, I guess, that they've hauled out. Been doing some of that here and there too. So we're still kind of stuck in a spot for that, unfortunately.
Was that just city trees that you were taking down, or was that commercial homes also that you were taking to Kevin's?
No, that was just city stuff. No, I was not I wasn't taking anything from the compost site itself out there. It was just what the guys were taking around recently. So that was just our stuff. And actually I haven't, and I'll have to check with Randy, but I haven't been called yet from a commercial hauler since we changed locks. So, to get in. So I don't know that we're accumulating a bunch right now other than what staff's doing, but staff's been pretty hard at it, so I mean, but I do know that a large quantity of the bulk of the logs and the good sized branches, a lot of that I know they've been able to get rid of at some local citizens' places. So, and I'll have to check with Jeff to see. I see he put down in his report he's doing some stuff in the cemetery, so I'd have to check with him. Where's that going, Marlene?
Pardon?
Right, the tree removal and trimming.
Out to the compost.
Okay,
That's
so,
where
yeah,
ours.
cemetery staff's taking theirs out that way, so. But we're gonna have to find a place, I know, I just have to see what the county's willing to give up or help us with, maybe a little bit. But even once we decide on a place, we have to get the DNR involved at that time, you know, and make sure they're on board, so. I think they will be, though. That was part of the efforts of having them here at that previous meeting. I think they know that we have an issue that needs resolved. I think they want to help be the solution, not the problem. So I think we'll figure something out. I just don't know what yet. If you guys talk to anybody, any private individuals out in the county that are willing to take it, if it's close, the closer the better, because that just saves on the fuel budget.
And the less that goes to the compost site, the better for us.
Oh yeah, hands down, hands down.
Is there any possibility to open that door up if he said he was willing to take everything?
Well,
is that physically possible for him?
I don't think, no, not at the amounts that we're gonna give him. He'd have to be burning pretty quickly, and yeah, I mean, very generous, very nice. I mean, the opportunity was great, but yeah, I'm not sure. I've been out there. I don't think it was conducive enough to take as much as we can give him if we're hitting it as hard as we do. But we go in spurts, and it just depends on what staff has scheduled. Depends on what the weather's going to do. I mean, there's a lot of things like we might go like gangbusters during a day like today. All of a sudden we start getting snow, and we get snow or ice or something, then we're switching gears more into maintenance mode. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Ed. Rhonda?
I don't have anything unless you have any questions.
Thank you. Diane Brown?
I have nothing tonight.
Matt?
I have nothing.
Steve's absent. Dick?
This dog thing concerns me. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. I don't, and I'd like to see them make a good effort in the next 2 weeks. If they're gonna really want to keep that dog, they should do that. That's all I have.
Great.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things. I'd like to thank Jeremy Dodd again for stepping up to serve one of our reserve police officers. The good things about him in the city of Sheffield, having grown up there, a lot of people have interacted with him. He's a pretty level-headed guy, and I think he'll be an asset to us. Also, I had received a complaint about a roll-off dumpster on Highway 65 North. property right across the street from the highway from using a construction building. So it's a big, giant roll-off full of bags of garbage. I said I would bring it up. That's all I have.
Jim?
I'd like the thing to represent is, it came from the library tonight, I have some questions for them. I'm not so sure we can or should do anything with this year's budget, but I wouldn't mind maybe down the road, and maybe Ron, you know, you and city staff do talk with Kim and others at the library, but maybe we just need to get some dialogue coming or going with the library, with the foundation, just to see what they have in mind, like for the next 5 and 10 years, and just to see what's coming, what we can see coming down the road, and what we can maybe do to help them to do that. Like I said, I'm not so sure we can or should do anything this year, but I think for future years that we do that more so, not just during budget time. That's all I have.
And I would just like to say thank you to Dick and Ron for covering for me at the emergency management meeting the other night. I had a prior engagement, and they covered well for me. I understand things went well, and there was some good changes made, I think, to the bylaws that needed to be made over there. So I thank them for that. And also on the dispatch and communications front, Ron and I will be meeting with the supervisors on Tuesday morning at 8:30. I think we're getting very close. Hopefully we can bring something back very soon. So that's all I have. If there's nothing else, any further public comment? Okay. I call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion to adjourn. 7:03.